It's over. We're going to talk about it. What's up, everybody? This is Norcam coming at you on this pretty depressing, Thursday? 2 days removed from this game against the Rams. And boy, what does this mean moving forward? I mean, technically, I guess it's not over, but we're going to dive into this in our weekly show, The Dive In with Dovin. With Daniel Dovin, my sponsor partner here, and there he is, Daniel of Dovin Group at Marketplace Sotheby's. Been kind enough to sponsor me and support me throughout the season, and enjoyed really going back and forth and breaking down these games and talking about the games and what hope we have left. And man, with one fell swoop, one fell bad call after another by the refs. Oh man, this game it kind of just really spelled out and epitomized what the entire season kind of was like. You know, missed opportunities, some bad calls, bad breaks, and just not getting enough done, especially by the offense when we needed to. What was your thoughts on this game, Daniel? Hard to watch.
Well, it was very painful offensively. I feel like whatever the Rams are doing, I think we've lost maybe 7 out of the last 10 against the Rams. I feel like even if they're not at full strength, we just can't out-scheme them. I'm not sure why, but I do think it starts with the running game. I feel like we rushed the ball maybe 19 times. We threw it 31 times. And what that shows me is really we abandoned the run game because it just wasn't working. And this is the problem with, Rashad Penny is, and the lack of Chris Carson and what happened to Adrian Peterson and not having Travis Homer doesn't help, So that being said, it starts with not being able to run the ball. And that's been a very frustrating part because that's part of the reason why we brought in Gabe Jackson. We also have talked about Curhan being a good, run blocker. But again, that was against the Texans. The Rams are a 10-win team, and we can't afford to play like that. And honestly, the officiating was really, really terrible. I felt like the NFL or Vegas or someone had our number, honestly, because, how the game was moved. And, the players are feeling it. They're implying it, but they're not going to say it because they don't want to get a fine. But it seemed really fishy to have, 25 of the Rams players out and to still have them play, move the game back. And then the officiating was so, timely against the Seahawks that it just didn't feel right. And of course, they covered the spread perfectly. I think the spread was 7 +7, and of course they win by 10. So I've seen +7, +9, and it's just uncanny and very frustrating. And when we won the Super Bowl, one of the themes that year was leave no doubt. No matter what's going on in the betting world or the Vegas world or the officiating world, to leave no doubt. And Pete Carroll talked about that at the end of the game when one of the interviewers, press folk, asked him about the play calls, the officiating calls. And he said, well, we need to not have a margin that slim that it affects anything. But it's like, we have been playing at that margin for all year. And that's been the mindset. Pete's been saying, hey, we're this close. It's only 10-10. It's only 7-7. It's only 3-3 or whatever. But, it's only against the really, really bad teams that we are able to stomp on them. Anytime we play someone at all worthy as an opponent this year, it's been tough sledding, especially on the offensive side. So with the exception of
the 49ers, yeah. Hopefully my mic is better. Somebody pointed out, I think Nick LeBeau mentioned my mic. My mic was way over in the wrong place, part of the room. So hopefully I sound better now. But it's the 49ers. They accounted for 40% of our wins, and they're right smack in the middle of the playoff hunt right now. For some reason, we've always got the 49ers number, but it seems like we got nobody else's, except the crappy teams, like you said.
You know what I think that is? I think Pete Carroll really understands the Shanahan tree, coaching-wise, and their philosophy and how they run. They're a little bit more like the Seahawks than than the Rams are. The Rams are like new age, right? New age kind of playing on both sides, and they also have the talent for it on both sides. So I think the Rams have had our number for a long time, even more so with Sean McVay. So I do think it's a coaching thing. I do think it's a scheme thing, and it's a player thing right now, unfortunately. And then add on to that, the officiating. It was a pretty terrible week, and I haven't seen you this down, Norb. This is the most down I've ever seen you.
Well, it's hard because you wanted so badly. We all wanted so badly for them to get that win, just so they would make this return back home to be inspiring and meaningful and hopeful that, okay, now we got the stretch of these two bad teams, and then we just got to beat the Cardinals, setting up this sort of showdown for the finale of the season where we have to go against the Cardinals and make that game kind of be like the Super Bowl of the regular season. Like, if we beat the Cardinals, maybe that gets us in. You know, as a fan, you just want that hope that every game matters. Now, I know mathematically, somebody put it, we got like a 0.1% chance. Well, come on, let's be realistic, guys. It's going to take basically several teams to lose out and for us to win out to even have a chance. I think it starts tonight. The 49ers are going to lose, and I'm not even sure if they're the teams. They may not even be the team that matters. I think it's going to be those Vikings and the teams below that are the only chance we have of chasing. But I'll be rooting against the 49ers anyway. But the chances are so small that, you know, that aside, it's just more of the fact that if we can't beat the Rams in a game like that, you know, it's frustrating to feel like your team just isn't there yet, you know. And now, granted, I agree with you. There's so much about this game that's felt so weird and cockamamie. The whole the whole rescheduling with the non-forfeit thing, and then that only helped LA because they got more players back, and we lost players in the process. So we didn't get back anybody that we were already losing, namely Alex Collins and Tyler Lockett. So all it did was add more players that we couldn't have on, that we would have had on Sunday, versus for the Rams, they got more players back. We lost more players. So right away, it put us further in the doghouse. And then, you know, the officiating on top of that was just dreadful. And I've said before, I've posted on Twitter and many other places and said so myself, that I am not one to use officiating as an excuse. Okay. I will often call out calls and say, oh, this was a bad call, but not say that this cost us the game. Now, I will preface this by saying we did not play well enough to where we could just simply go, well, it didn't matter. We didn't need the help from the refs or them to get that call right because we were just playing so well. But when you're a team that needs every break, and we said before, our narrow margin is this thin, that the difference between winning a game and losing a game may be 1 third down conversion, i.e. the Titans game. The reason we lost the Titans game is because we couldn't get 1 first down conversion in the third or fourth quarter. We get 1 first down, the game is over. It doesn't go to overtime. And much could be said for many of the other games. So our margin has been that small, and it's been this small for a long time. So when you have a margin that small, and then you do just enough to get the plays done, but then the refs go and smother that, that little flame with a wet blanket, then you're that much more. Your chances are doused because that's just the way we're built. We're not blowing teams away. We need every little break to come our way because they come so few and far between. So as I put in a tweet, I said the Seahawks dug their own grave, but it was the refs who finished us off. So we could have won that game. I think if that first call, the holding call against they called on Bless Austin for holding on Cooper Kupp, which wasn't a hold. You never grabbed anything. You just shoved him down, but. That cost us, and at the time I said this. And
he shoved him down in the first, 5 yards, which you're allowed to do.
I thought it was the first 5. Yeah,
you're allowed to do that in the NFL.
And he was already falling down. That's the thing. He kind of went out of his break, and he was already kind of tripping, and he just sort of helped continue his downward fall. So it wasn't like he was running just fine, and he just impeded his progress. He was already tripping, so he was already in a position where he didn't have to do much. So it wasn't like those obvious ones where a guy's running just fine and then at the last second somebody grabs a shoulder pad and makes him. Unlike the play that we didn't get called on with DJ Dallas that was everything about that was the definition of pass interference. The defender not looking back at the ball, the defender's arm hitting our receiver's arm before the ball gets there. Those two things clearly happen. And then he doesn't get the call. And then, of course, he gets frustrated. He kicks the football, 15-yard penalty, puts him in field goal range. I mean, that just sort of sealed our fate right there. So that was frustrating because I'm okay with losing on our own merit. We've done fine on our own. But, man, we don't need the refs to help us do worse. We're already having enough troubles. The refs only just made it that much more, easier for the Rams to get that victory. So that was much frustrating. I would like to just see Seattle, play the game, get the calls called evenly and fairly, and then let's see if we win or lose that game. But it sucks that we never got that chance. So, but as you said, a flip to the positive, I think what was good to see was the defense actually played a pretty good game. For the most part, with the exception of a few plays, they rushed the quarterback. Carlos Dunlap got 3 sacks in that game. Where's this been all year? They got stops on third down when they needed to.
Hold on, he was playing a backup tackle, but yes, it was a great game.
That's true, and that was a product, I believe, of the COVID thing. And yes, he was a backup tackle, but heck. We are playing backup guys all over the place as well. So, it's kind of, we've got backup running backs and backup everything. So it's part of what happens. Again, this is why we should have played a game on Sunday. Let's really see how many backups how they would have done with all those backups. But that aside, we should have played a game on Sunday. They still made some stops, they didn't get enough stops where they needed to, because obviously, man, got to hand it to Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp. Freaking good as advertised, man. Even though they didn't blow it completely away, he was the guy. He was their offense. And when they had to get a third down conversion, man, freaking Cooper Kupp was there making catches, and sometimes well covered, sometimes wide open. But man, it's just he was as good as advertised, and they are a good duo. And so, man, it's just it's frustrating. We're not there yet. Clearly, the Rams are better than us, but we could have won the game. Unfortunately, we didn't, and now we are sitting in the spot where it's what is left in terms of meaningful football left. It's hard to get excited about these games, since they really apparently don't really mean much if the postseason is all that you're thinking about. It's tough, man. Tough time. Tough time for the fan base.
Things there. Yeah, there's a few things there that you said that makes me think about some things. So, for example, we put up 10 points, okay, on offense. We're not going to win any games that way. People are all, right. People even in the chat are talking about firing Ken Norton for defense. Listen, 22 out of the 30 teams in the league put up 20 points or more on offense. So if we were just in the top 2/3 offensively, we should be able to win by giving up 20 points.
Yeah.
And a lot of those points were also due to terrible mistakes, bad offense. We had an interception. We had no touchdowns.
No passing touchdowns. Yeah.
We had 19 runs, 31 passes. It was a terrible offensive game. I think it's really time to really start talking about Shane Waldron. I think it's time to take a look at the fact that Darrell Bevell has now delegated offensive play calling to Brian Schottenheimer with the Jaguars. There's something seriously wrong with what's going on offensively in Seattle. For some reason this year, DK, it might be his foot injury, and Pete Carroll actually did mention it in one of his press conferences recently, that his foot injury has hampered him this season. And I think that that's not been good for us. Missing Chris Carson is huge. We haven't had a true third receiver really pop up, right? I mean, every once in a while, Russell would throw a bomb to David Moore. And before that, he would throw a bomb to Jermaine Kearse. And they would catch it when they had an opportunity. These days, when we throw a bomb to DJ Dallas or D. Eskridge or whoever, they're not coming down with it. And the only guy who's really consistent is Tyler Lockett. When he gets thrown the ball, he catches it. That's straight up what it is. DK doesn't have good hands this year, regardless of his feet. For whatever reason, he's been gone. I don't know what's going on. And just taking a look at the numbers, we are ranked 28th out of 30th in offensive numbers, and
out of all 32 teams in the NFL.
Oh, sorry, there's 32 teams. It's even worse than
32.
I'm looking at the wrong steps. And hold on. So total offense, we are number 20. Actually, we're number 30 out of 32.
That's still pretty terrible. Yeah, second to last. Oh,
and then defense is 31 out of 32. And so I think it's time to really question scheme-wise, especially if you know the Rams that well. You can't be getting destroyed by your old team. That's kind of part of the reason you were brought here. And you can't tell me that Russell's happy with the change. You can't tell me that he doesn't miss Brian Schottenheimer after the year they had. Despite the injury, it shouldn't be this bad. You know, like, it's one thing to go 500. It's another thing to be bottom of the barrel. And the reason why I want to win the rest of this year is just for the pure satisfaction of not giving the Jets a super duper high draft pick. It's already going to be high.
Right.
But I'm not trying to give them a top 3 pick, right?
Yeah.
2 of them. Well, actually 1 for this upcoming year. And then not only that is I'm kind of a homer. You know, I'm kind of a loyal guy. And so I don't want to see us completely blow up everything. I do think there's going to be a lot of changes, but I don't think the best path forward is to blow up everything, because we have to also realize objectively losing Chris Carson and Russell Wilson and Jamal Adams at points this season, that is a huge deal. Those are your your top 5 or 6 best players. No team would have survived that. No team. The Buccaneers were down all of their best offensive weapons, and they scored 0 points with Tom Brady because they didn't have so many great guys on offense, running backs and wide receivers.
It was a bad week for the Buccaneers to have a bad game, because we could have used, again, in this hope that other teams fall, we could have used the Buccaneers' help on that game they got shut out. But yeah, I know it is, and you know, and I know the debate's going to rage on for a while about what needs to happen in terms of changes. Like you said, there's really 4 different things that happen. Is, you know, they blow up the whole thing and everybody's gone. Pete's gone, Russell's gone, or Pete stays and Russ is gone, or Russ stays and Pete's gone, or they both come back. So I mean, there's really 4 things from the top debate part of things that can happen, assistant coaches aside, from the Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll side of things. And we'll probably get into much more of a longer debate over this as we see how the rest of this season plays out. But you know, I've been saying all along, I guess I'm also one that tends to not like to radically change things too much. You know, I don't like when the NFL radically rewrites their rules, when they take certain things entirely out of the game or change the rules to where you're dynamically changing the essence of the way the game is played. You know, whether that be certain personal fouls or roughing the passers or you know, the way they change the kickoffs to where you can't, you know, the kickoff becomes no longer competitive of a play. You know, I'm a little bit traditionalist that way. I'm also one that I don't like to jump into the blow everything up just because I'm not happy about it, because it's very easy to just think, oh, the grass is greener over there, so let's just get some green grass. Let's burn up this brown grass over here. But sometimes, you know, you just have brown grass for one season, and then you realize, you know what? That grass actually was pretty good. We've had a good lawn for a while. We just had a bad summer, a bad drought, but it could be good again. But that's a debate, I think, for another, you know, a longer term topic. One thing, Pro Bowl voting came out, and it was cool. Congratulations to Quandre Diggs and Bobby Wagner for making the Pro Bowl team. I think that's great.
Well deserved by Quandre.
Russell Wilson being an alternate and Matthew Stafford not even making the Pro Bowl. Clearly, there's something wrong with the voting system. But more than that, you have heard me joke that the MVP of the Seattle Seahawks in 2021, Michael Dixon.
Michael Dixon, 100%.
Where was he?
100%.
Was his name left off the ballot or something? How do you not put one of the best punters?
Objectively speaking, he's the best punter. He's the best punter statistically, visually, the volume, like, within the 20-yard line, like everything.
I mean, what more does the guy have to do? Catch some touchdown passes? throw some touchdown passes? I don't know. I don't know who won it, but whatever it is, I can't see them being any.
Who got it? I want to know what Pro Bowler got it as a kicker.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm looking it up.
Yeah, look it up. I didn't pay much attention. I just saw the headlines. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, what? Michael Dixon is not on that list? Russell Wilson, I don't even think he deserves to be an alternate on there. I mean, I love myself some Russell Wilson, right? And I back the guy out.
Brian Anger of the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys have had a great season, which is weird why he'd be on there because they're the number one offense in the league.
Yeah, but the teams that don't, you would think the punter in a year that he's being leaned on so much because their offense can't do things half the time needs to be in that because he is the most valuable player because they use him every week more than any other team does practically. Right. So I don't know where this voting is kind of screwy, but who cares? Pro Bowl's a joke anyway. Anyway, so. Yeah, I mean. You know, it is looking back at the season, though. There's a lot of things that did go wrong that was part of the architected plan. Like you said, Chris Carson was meant to be the center and the starting point of this offense. We lost him, what, was it not even 3 games into the season? It was so early in the season, we all thought he was going to come back.
And it was after week 2.
Yeah.
I think we were 1-1, and then it was done.
He was the first piece. He was like the centerpiece. You know, Russell Wilson next to that, but the ground game with Chris Carson was meant to be the engine that kept this offense going. With him gone immediately, we were already, backtracking at that point. But, Tyler Lockett's had a great season. It's a shame that he couldn't play this game. I think, again, the result's different if he's in this game, just like I think a couple of games are different.
He's the Ram killer, dude. He always plays so well against the Rams, too.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, right? All those beautiful toe tap catches we've seen against the Rams. But, the big real question is, and we'll see this play out the rest of the game. Now, again, we're playing 2 crappy teams. So if Seattle beats up on the Bears and beats up on the Lions, hopefully, then we're going to just write that and go, well, it's just the Bears, it's just the Lions, even though Lions did beat, some other teams that are supposed to be better. And then we'll play the Cardinals as the final, eye test on the game. But the mystery as to why the Russell Wilson connection has not flourished like the connection with Tyler Lockett, why like the Stafford to Cooper Kupp connection. It is so mind-boggling. I think everybody's asking that question when Pete was asked in a press conference, why are they not connecting? And he has no answer. He says, they're trying. You see his frustration because he can't answer the question. I don't know. They're trying their asses off. But it's just, for whatever reason, not happening. And it's mind-boggling, man.
I can't imagine that if I was Pete Carroll and I saw how they were in the off-season and in-season the last 2-3 years, I would be mind-boggled too. I'd be like, we have a little mini Megatron. Yeah, he's not fully healthy, but I doubt Megatron was ever fully healthy. and Julio Jones, they're always getting beat up. They're always like on 3 guys, That being said, here's a critique on DK is I'm not convinced he's mentally at the same level as Tyler Lockett or Cooper
totally
Kupp.
Agree.
Like those guys mentally can describe coverages and they're really great in space. Like I think DK, I'd be the same if I was his size. I'd probably have relied on my physicality and my jump ball skills and my speed and power more than like these littler guys. They have to know more of the details. And right now, I think that's a part of his game he can really step up on is all those little details, whether it's, leverage or whether it's, finding a spot in the zone, because I feel like right now he's like a very, very large sports car. I'm trying to think.
It's so funny. I was thinking the same exact thing. I was thinking the same exact comparison, but continue.
He's like a Lamborghini SUV, which I think is what he drives. He drives like a beautiful light blue, baby blue Lamborghini SUV. So it's like power and speed, but that's not the type of vehicle that's gonna really go around a curve very well. Right. That's exactly what I was thinking too. The defense isn't exactly where you thought. I mean, but Cooper Kupp is going to like be a little Porsche and he's just going to, make it happen. So anyway, I think that's part of his game. And I think, getting better hands, would be good, softer hands. And then if DK really high pointed the ball, he'd be unstoppable, right? Like got up there with that triangle, caught it with his fingers, and came down. But at the same time, none of this matters, Norb, if all the plays we draw up for him are long developing and they need like a lot of pass protection. And we can't do that if we have no running game and no offensive line. So it's kind of a...
But I think all the shortcomings we saw on display in this game, both from what you were just describing, but also DK's, I saw some things that just reminded me about what you were saying, the shortcomings of DK Metcalf himself. First of all, on the side where you're saying these plays don't work, Russell Wilson had DK Metcalf 2 times behind Jalen Ramsey, the biggest one near the end of the game, where he had a surefire touchdown. He was at least 5 yards behind Jalen Ramsey. And for whatever reason, Russell underthrew that ball. We've seen Russell overthrow a lot since his finger injury, but I haven't seen him underthrow that badly. Normally, Russell's one of the best deep balls throwers in the NFL. But why he was so short on these... Right. Maybe I don't know if it has anything to do with what was going on at the line of scrimmage when it happened, but he short armed those balls and that one it would have been wide open for. So unfortunately he missed that and he knows it. But so he had time. There was time there because he was able to get that ball and had him take the route. But what I saw even on those plays that didn't happen, where Jalen Ramsey one-handed tipped 2 balls there, and then at the end the one that got intercepted was also intended for DK Metcalf. What I'm starting to see is a very regular pattern of DK Metcalf not, like you said, not high pointing the ball. This is a guy who should be able to outjump anybody that tries to defend him, both from height and from jumping ability. But for some reason, the ability to know when to jump, attack the ball, and grab it, like you said, with 2 hands is not there. I've seen him jump, and he has his hands down low in a game previously, I think against the Vikings or something, and he jumped early and almost was back on the ground when the ball came. I think he could have challenged Jalen Ramsey if he comes back and attacks at the point instead of waiting for it. And that even on the interception, I thought he got grabbed, for one thing. Secondly, he just sort of allowed the other guy to step up there and jump and take it. And I wanted to see him fight for that ball.
Up on that play.
He just sort of ran and kept running and didn't even. You look at the still image, which I have, which I had at the beginning of the show. It shows the guys at high point, and you see just DK just kind of looking back and continuing down the stride, slowing down. And this is the game on the line.
If part of it, I wonder if part of it too, it is, checking out mentally because of the record. Number 1. Number 2, he's injured, which is not helping anything right now. Number 3, I think, we have to realize it's not easy to change offensive coordinators when you're new in the league, right? You just came out of Ole Miss, right? You have one system there. You learn with Brian Schottenheimer this whole other thing. And then next thing you know, he's gone. And you're like, it doesn't make any sense as a player when you just went 12-4 and then like your coach and one of your spiritual leaders is gone. And then you have this new guy who's not using you very well and you're injured and Russell's injured. Like I can see why, as like, how old is he? 24? like a millionaire at 24. I can see why he'd be checking out, honestly. Like I don't think it's cool, but I also don't necessarily blame him. This has been a terrible season. And but DK has all the potential in the world, and he's shown a lot of flashes. I think I would love to see Russell and him run it back again, because the alternative is not good, right? So we're supposed to be extending DK this offseason. It's not a very good timing for anyone because of how bad the season went and his stats. So he's not in the best negotiating time.
Right.
Also, it's even worse if you're like, what if they do blow it up and we do get some Joe Schmo quarterback for a year while we're drafting quarterback, or we get a rookie in and whatever. It's not a great situation. So I honestly think the best way forward is to run it back, at least with the players. I mean, if you can run it back with Russell and DK and Tyler and a healthy Chris Carson and a decent offensive line, then I think the odd man out might be the coaching staff. That's my opinion at this point. I honestly don't think, I don't think John Schneider set us up for failure this year. I feel like he did a lot to give us the players we need, but it's not his fault that D. Eskridge was out for forever. It's not his fault that Chris Carson got injured. Injuries are just, it was pretty bad this year overall, and Russell's definitely not 100% healthy. And people forget, too, that Russell Wilson's one of his best friends died mid-season.
All right, his mental coach.
Kind of unexpectedly. That's not good. It's probably really devastating for him.
Just to add on to the DK thing, like I said, I think you said physically he's got all the potential in the world, but that emotional, mental side of the game that we clearly see him game in, game out, losing it on the sidelines and whatnot, he's going to have to get that under control because, just with my kids through volleyball, all the years that they've been playing and, everything we learn from coaches and everything like that is that you have to, attitude is a big deal. And if you have a negative attitude, it doesn't matter how good you are. If that attitude comes to a point where it's bringing down your team, and we've seen it have an effect on the entire sideline, that's going to short circuit his long-term future. Because when you talk about the greats like Jerry Rice, Steve Largent, just a couple of those guys, that was never anything you mentioned. That's never part of the conversation, right? Even Megatron, right? I mean, that guy was great, was in a bad situation, bad team, but you never heard the guy having an attitude issue. And the guys who usually do have attitude issues, usually things don't pan out very well for them long term. And when you're talking about legacy and things like that. So I hope he gets his stuff together because he's a freak of nature, but I think mentally, which is half of the other part of the game, he's got to learn not only mentally how to be a better player, but how to have a better attitude when it comes to when things don't go well. It's easy to have a great attitude when you're winning, but it's in those times when things are going bad, how do you respond and not bring your team down at the same time? You got to be able to bring your team up. Right. All right, well, we could talk forever on this. I know we got a limited amount of time here, so I do want to make sure we get enough time for your tip, and I guess a little bit of looking forward here to the the Chicago Bears game. I'll just say this much, because I don't even want to dissect this game, because I watched that Bears game hoping that they would somehow beat the Vikings on Monday night. Oh, my God. This team is so trash. The Chicago Bears is a trash team. And that's not very often that I will come out and just say a team sucks. I tweeted out, I was watching the game, I was going, oh, my God, Chicago really sucks, because I wanted them to win. And it was terrible. It's like, oh, my gosh. So, which tells me we better not even be close to a game where we might be afraid of losing, because this team that sucks so bad, if we play poorly against them and we are even sniffing the chance of losing to them on Sunday, man, I might start talking about firing and blowing things up. So that can't happen, right? I don't know if you feel differently, like we better be careful because this is the Chicago Bears, a team, professional team, NFL, any given Sunday. No, not Chicago. Better not be, not in our field.
No, especially I do think we match up well because they are terrible. I feel like our defense is gonna play fine. We're pretty fast on defense, and I feel like we can like Jordan Brooks is a great type of linebacker against a scrambling quarterback like Fields. I don't feel like he has the eye activity or the arm or the maturity to shred us like, an Aaron Rodgers would. So I feel good about that. And I feel like we can't get much worse than scoring 10 points on offense. So, and again, it's not like the Bears are world beaters on either side of the ball. They're terrible this year. I think they're 4-10. And they just had Hicks, their D tackle, go on the COVID list. So it's not even clear that he's going to be playing. And so maybe we can get the ball rolling on, the running side, because that's what we have to do this time of year. And, playing. Are we on the road? I'm sorry, I don't.
No, we're playing home. We're at home.
We're home. Yeah. Yep. So I mean, it doesn't matter this year. We're terrible at both. But no, I'm joking. I feel like just for Pete Carroll's pride and Shane Waldron's pride, like we need to run the ball better.
Yeah, I want to see the Seattle fight.
Or just like Russell, call the whole game and throw 50 bombs. Throw 50 bombs. We'll probably win by like 6 points either way, but whatever.
Well, I'd love to see, again, something different. But they did have a couple of good drives in there, particularly to start the second half. A lot of DJ Dallas running the football because Rashad Penny got hurt again. But yeah, you mentioned Jordan Brooks. I do have to call him out in a good way because he actually has been making a lot of improvements. I'm actually become a believer more in Jordan Brooks, especially the way he sniffed out those screen passes. Man, he did a good job of. I just feel like I'm seeing KJ Wright here.
I have a controversial question for you about Jordan Brooks. Do you think that the Seahawks are going to run it back with Bobby at 20 plus million, or do you think they're going to let him go? And he's going to play well next year for someone else because Bobby's he's not slowed down like a lot of players at his age in his position. Like Bobby's still a very high quality player. Is he worth quote unquote 20 million? That's hard to say if any linebacker is worth that. Like in today's NFL, no offense. It's not my money. I don't care. But are they going to move Jordan Brooks to middle linebacker, which is where he plays more naturally now that he's learned a lot in the the outside linebacker position, and he's learned some Sam too. Like, do you think that's what's going to happen, or are they going to run that back again?
I don't think. Real quick, Vegas Eat Speaks in the super chat. Pete won't get fired, he says. It's one bad season. Injuries, refs, and a down year is all it was. If Russ stays, we will be back next season. And for the record, I gotta say, I am more in that camp. What Vegas Eat Speaks, by the way. Just I'm not in favor of blowing the whole thing up. About the Bobby Wagner thing, that's a tough one because Bobby Wagner, again, Pro Bowler for what that's worth, but he did lead the team, I think, in tackles again. So the guy's still making plays, and he was making plays against the Rams as well. But is he worth $20 million? Gosh, I hate these tricky cap questions because, you got the whole Jamal Adams thing mucking up the way the contracts are all going, and we got to put more players, more resources to the offensive line, and I don't know, man. I know you're trying to pressure me into an answer, but I don't want Bobby Wagner to go. I don't think we're ready to have him gone yet. I don't think we've gotten to the point where he's not productive anymore and that he shouldn't be there anymore. I don't believe so. There are times when I feel like he's a step slow, but there are times when I still think like, man, he's still dissecting plays, and what he does with his mind makes up for what he can't do physically. There's that mental anticipation of knowing what's going to happen, and he's still making those plays. I don't think he's dropped that far to where he's not worth keeping on the team. Let's just restructure the contract. They always hear all teams restructuring contracts. We don't seem to do that and kick the can down the road a little bit further. But I don't know. I'm not ready. Jordan Brooks has improved, but he's not ready to take over Bobby Wagner's spot, if that's what you're saying to me. So I think it's got to go somewhere else. All right. Well, we gotta move to your tip. I want to make sure you have time for that. So let's pivot here and tell us what is your Dovin Group and Marketplace Sotheby's tip of the week.
Yes, thank you. The tip of the week, I want to give you guys some things to think about for how to build up your credit scores, as most of the time people are not buying real estate in all cash. If you are in a blessed position to be able to do that, then that is awesome. I'm happy for you. But for most of us mere mortals, we need to be using credit. So what are some ways, if you are 16 years old or you're 62 years old, how are you going to build your credit? Well, one thing you could do is you can go to one of your banks or a credit union and ask to start a secured credit card. So what is that? That is where it's not like you just get a line of credit and you go spend whatever you want at Nordstrom. A secured line of credit is where, for example, you give them $200 in cash and you now have a credit line of $200. And this is a way that you can start building credit. Again, this is called a secured credit card. Once you've shown the ability to pay on time and to keep your balance at a good level and to pay that off on time every month, then what you can do is you can get a traditional credit card. And the ideal amount to stay under is to stay under 30% usage. So if you have $1,000 credit line, you want to be spending $300 or less, having your balance be under $300 a month, and obviously paying that off in time. If you do have rough credit right now, I'd highly recommend that you look for ways to dispute negative things on your credit report and to get things out of collection. I know personally what it's like to have creditors calling you all the time, to be in a tough place financially, to have, things in collection. I used to have medical bills and things like that. And it's really a tough place to be. But at some point, biting the bullet, looking the problem directly in the face and addressing it is the best way to go. Once you are able to look at a problem directly and put it on paper, it'll be a lot less scary if you're like, okay, this is how much debt I have. This is where my credit score is, and this is where I need to be to get to the place I want. That's the way to do it. You start there by looking the problem straight in the face. So one last piece of advice, if you want a little bit more detail on how to do this, you can speak to a local mortgage lender or realtor and have them provide you a credit simulator, like a credit score simulator. So for example, your credit score is at 620 right now, and you know that you can get a much better rate at 685 credit score. Well, talk to the lender about what you can do with your current situation to get it to 685. And there's different simulators that you can do. For example, they say, okay, well, if you keep paying this off for the next 5 months consistently without any late payments, then your score is going to jump up by 12 points or whatever that is for you. And so my encouragement to you is definitely build up your credit. If you're really, really young and you don't want a credit card, what you can do is you can ask, if you have a very responsible parent or responsible adult in your life, you can ask if you can be an authorized user on the card. And it's up to you and that person if you actually want to be using the card. But the idea is, as they're paying off their credit, you're also getting some credit for their credit because you're named as an authorized user on the card. Again, whether or not you're actually spending money, that's up to you guys, but it's a nice way to start building up your credit early. And it's something that I would encourage you to do. If you're young and you're not looking to buy for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, by all means, talk to a responsible adult about that.
All right.
There you go, Norb.
Yeah, it's good building blocks for the future. Yes, good points right there, man. So, all right, well, we're going to wrap the show up. So we got the Seahawks-Bears game on Sunday. I'll be there live streaming and hopefully some happy reactions from that game. And hope you'll join me for that. And let's hopefully get a much-needed win at home for what it's worth this season. But, man, I still enjoy going to the games. And, look, if you're not going to enjoy the rest of these games that we have left, imagine what's going to happen when the season's over. I mean, we're going to have to wait another 9 months before we have football back again. So would you rather just complain about, I'm not going to watch this game because I don't like what's on the field? Or would you rather just simply start your off season early and stop watching? Well, for me, I'm going to take every bit of football that I can get. So I'm going to be out there cheering. Every win's a win to me, and even if it's a meaningless game, I'm still going to want to watch them win the game because it's still fun. I don't believe in tanking for draft and all that kind of stuff. So go Hawks, baby! Let's get a win. I'm looking forward to the game on Sunday. Daniel, as always, thanks for being on the show and sharing your tips and the thoughts on the Seahawks. And hopefully next week we'll have a much more positive situation to talk about. We'll see what the playoff picture looks like and what our team looks like.
31-24, brother.
31-24. I'm going to go bigger. I'm going to go with your 31, but I'm going to lower it down. 31-17. Let's go with that. We better beat them by more than 2 scores.
Okay.
All right, you guys. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next time. Go Hawks.
Peace.